What's up, hybrids? Welcome back to another episode of the Fandom Hybrid Podcast. This is Hanako, and I'm here with Anthony and Michelle, and we are discussing episode 8 of House of the Dragon, the Lord of the Tides.
The Lord of the Tides.
Yes. We couldn't even get past the title without all of us giggling.
Or we'd be Lords of the Tides, Heads of the Tides.
You know what? Just the Tides. Just the Tides.
Splitsville.
Okay, so we start out this episode with Rhaenys talking to the Maester because apparently there's been another time jump in this episode, 6 years, or at least 6 years. Let's say that, at least 6 years. Lord Corlys has been fighting. He's been away. She hasn't seen him for 6 years, and the news has come to her that he has been hurt during the fighting. Possibly mortally.
Grievously wounded.
Grievously wounded. You know, possibly, yeah. It could be mortal. So, as the Maester is giving her the information that Lord Corlys, basically he was cut, and then he fell into the sea. He lost a lot of blood. They're bringing him back to Driftmark, but right now they don't know if he's going to live or die.
Sounds like an infection.
Yeah. So as Rhaenys is sitting on the the little throne of Driftmark, and Baela is at her side, who she's taken to ward, her brother-in-law Vaemond is in the room, and they start having a discussion about whether or not Corlys is going to survive. And Vaemond at this point calls into question, okay, but should my brother pass, who is going to take the Driftmark seat? And she says it will pass on to Lucerian Valerion as my husband wished. And he's like, that boy is not blood. He's not a Valerion. That seat should be mine by rights. And here,
I like that Baela said, well, why don't...
She was like, my grandmother looks quite comfortable here.
Yeah, she's great. I mean, why does she have to go?
Okay, so why are you saying that? Let me say this. Baela is most definitely her father's daughter. Because even during the course of this discussion, when Rhaenys and Vaemond, they're not arguing, but they're going back and forth because Rhaenys is basically like, the stuff that you're saying is treason. He was like, we know it to be true. He steps up to the days, and I don't think he was going to do anything to Rhaenys, but you can see Baela kind of look and kind of step over a little bit. I was like, okay, that's Daemon's daughter. She's not going to say much. She's just going to observe. And then later on in the episode, Baela was ready to throw down. I don't know if you caught that during that whole fight scene at the table. Baela was ready to throw down. Her sister was like holding her back, like, Baela. I was like, wait, hold up. Let me look at this. I was like, oh, Baela ready to scrap. And then I have to remember, Baela was the one who threw the first punch at Aemon.
She's like her dad.
Definitely like her dad. So anyway, like I said, Rhaenys and Vaemond, they're going back and forth because Rhaenys is like, the seat is going to go to Lucerion. And Vaemond is like, no, the seat should be mine. He was like, my brother only cares about the history books. I care about the Velaryon line. Is it supposed to die out, to how strong? I was like, wait a minute, hold up. Don't you got some sons? So technically speaking, your line won't die out.
Yeah, that I was thinking about that too. I'm like, he had like he don't have no children. Like they don't have no relatives at all. It's just him. They're like, nah, dude, come on now. You got to do better than that.
So I don't know. I was a little confused about that. But anyway, so he basically tells Rhaenys, he was like, yeah, you know what? I would love to have your support in this, but I don't need it. I was like, oh, this is about to be interesting. Because what did she say to him? She says, my cousin, he makes the statement that the matter of succession has been decided upon by someone whose decisions has led to calamity after calamity for their family. And she says to him, she was like, my cousin, the king, would have your tongue for this. And he says, but it's not the king who sits on the throne these days, it's a queen. I was like, okay. Even before I saw what happened in the episode, I was like, baby, she just warned you. Like the king said 20 years ago, the matter of succession is decided. He decided with Rhaenyra, and then he decided later on.
Yes, he did.
With those, he already decided this. But okay, we're gonna see how this plays out.
We're gonna circle back. We're gonna circle back to that.
We're gonna circle back to that. We're gonna see how this plays out. So we go back to King's Landing, small, small council, or is it are we going to King's Landing yet, or do we want to go to Dragonstone? Then we're gonna go to Dragonstone.
Next was Dragonstone.
Dragonstone. So Rhaenyra is pregnant again. At this point, we don't realize that she and Daemon have already had kids, but we find this out later on in the episode that they already have 2 children. She's pregnant with a third. They have 2 sons named Aegon
and Viserys.
And Viserys. Now, that's petty to name your son the same name as your brother.
Yes.
But I digress. I'm getting ahead of myself here.
We'll circle back to that.
Yeah.
We'll circle back to that. But so yes, very pregnant Rhaenyra is there. Daemon is on the island getting dragon eggs. And when he got the dragon eggs, I was like, okay, she must be pregnant, But Jace is there. He's a little bit older. He looks like he might be about maybe 17, 18, right around there. You see him around the table in the war room. I don't know what they called it back then, but it was Daenerys's war room. And he's learning High Valyrian. And I was like, okay. So he's taking this thing about being the heir to the heir very seriously. When she comes in and he's stumbling over his words, she was like, well, I don't expect you to speak High Valyrian in a day. Why don't you take a break? He was like, no, king.
Can you answer me this though?
Yeah.
Say it.
He's 17. What have they been doing for 15 years?
It's like they're not sword training. I mean, they're not taking their foreign language classes. I mean, what they doing? Did you wait till the last minute?
I just want to know.
You know what?
Even though your mom's like, well, you have time, honey. See, she really loves her kids. She does.
She does.
But I'm telling you, Alicent what did she say? By 4 years old.
What did she say? Unless you plan to depose your mother, you have plenty of time.
You have time. But he should have still learned it early on.
I think
maybe he wasn't trying. Maybe now he's actually trying.
I don't even know if I feel like that, because he seems like he's the kind of kid, especially because we see in this episode, it's very well known that they are bastards, that they are not Laenor's children. Even the kids kind of have heard the rumors and they have the thoughts as well. So I feel like maybe he's at that point where he's like, okay, I have to do whatever it takes so that if this falls to me, there's no question that I am fit to lead. You know what I'm saying? But he could be one of those kids that languages don't come easy for him.
And he'd been doing this since he was 5.
Some people don't have a grasp for those kinds of things. Or he could be doing, I don't know High Valyrian. I don't know how hard it is.
Clearly, he's struggling. Okay, he's on the struggle bus. He's struggling.
He is struggling.
He's getting us maybe a C, barely passing this course here.
I would go with that. But he's trying at least.
Yeah,
he's trying. Anyway, so we get to see him. We get to see little Joffrey, who looks like he's about 6. about 6, maybe 7.
6.
No, because if it's been 6 years since Lord Corlys has been seen, that means it's been equally that long since they've been in the Red Keep. Because remember, they were all there last episode for Lana's funeral. Mm-hmm. And the baby had already been born at that time. So he has to be at least 7.
Right.
At this point.
And it would make sense that Corlys has been gone for 6 years because, again, his son passed away, and he probably just went out and just was like, I won't come home for a while.
Yeah. He was like, I need to go kill some things.
Yeah. So
I need to go do some killing and some conquering.
They needed some space. So
yeah. Possibly, because I mean, if you think about it, and they even hint at it in this scene, Rhaenys blames Rhaenyra and Daemon for Laenor's death. She thinks that they arranged to have him killed so that they can marry, which technically speaking is kind of true. It's just that he had a part in that, and he is now off living his best life somewhere else.
I'm just concerned about that poor guard's family. Like, they have no idea what happened to their cousin, son, child, brother, whatever.
They're in Westeros. And things like that happen all the time.
All the time. So.
I mean, I get it. But, they probably did have some tension between them because, again, of course, Rhaenys, even back then, said to Lord Corlys, she was like, I want Driftmark to go to the girls. And he was like, no, it's got to go to Luke. He's our grandson in name, and that's all that matters. So they probably did differ on that. And then after that discussion, for Laenor to die, and then just all the chaos, they were probably like, yeah, you know what? I need a break from you. I'm gonna go fight in the Stepstones or wherever it is he's fighting. I'm gonna sit here and keep this chair warm and have my granddaughter here by my side. I mean, sometimes that happens. Couples separate. 6 years without laying eyes on them, though, that's kind of
that's a long time. That's a long time.
It's a long time.
And she didn't even seem so concerned. Oh, okay. Well, we'll get prepared for him to come back home.
I think at this point, she may be expecting tragedy to happen.
Yeah, they brought it upon themselves for wanting her to be queen.
Yeah, because you kind of get that later on in the episode too. After what happens with Vaemond, she's just kind of like, this ain't the first time I've seen death. It's not gonna, it's not gonna matter whether or not I close my eyes to it or not. It's here, which is so sad for her because it's like, I really want her to know her son is alive, but at the same time, I understand why she can't know, because that would just throw everything off. First of all, Rhaenyra would really be in trouble because now, well,
no, she's Targaryen.
She would, because she's not a man. A man could have 2 wives back then, but she can't.
She can't have 2 husbands. No. That's interesting.
It is,
but no, that's weird.
And she said as much when she was a child, when all this stuff came up with the whole Daemon thing and about her purity and whether or not she had lost her maidenhead. She was like, if I was a man, I could go whore around the whole 7 kingdoms and nobody would bat an eyelash.
We'll circle back.
Yeah, but we'll get back to that one too.
We got a lot of circling back to do.
Yeah, circle back to that too.
But anyway, so Daemon gets a letter from Baela basically saying, hey, Father, I'm writing to you about Uncle Vaemond. He is on his way to King's Landing right now to discuss matters of succession. He feels like Driftmark is his because he is, on account of his unattainted blood. I was like, oh, because I did freeze frame that to read that letter. I was like, yep. Okay.
I did the second time.
I did not do any freeze framing.
Whatever. I did
too.
That's how I know that Rhaenyra saying Rhaenys has already flown there. I was like, that's bullshit. That's not in that letter.
Let's assume she sent a raven. How about that?
Yeah.
We can. But yeah, so anyway, they get the letter, and Rhaenyra realizes that if he's calling into question Luke's legitimacy, then he's also calling into question Jace's legitimacy, and then her own seat, claim for the throne, because of course, if she is found to have bastard children, then she herself has committed treason, and then she loses the throne, and she probably loses her head too.
Mm-hmm.
So she's like, okay, at this point, time for family reunion.
Right.
Because as she
said, off to King's Landing.
Yeah, because at this point, we find out, as she says, that the Vipers, meaning the Hightowers, are currently ruling in the king's name. So I'm assuming, at this point, I'm like, oh, he must be like sick. Man, let me tell you, I was not prepared
for the Crypt Keeper.
Oh my God, I think that's a compliment at this point. He reminded me of.
So I know you're gonna say what's his name in
The Mummy.
Bad.
No, yeah. I was gonna say Imhotep in the Mummy, when he starts regenerating and he has that hole in his face, and the scarab comes in, and that's what that reminded me of.
You didn't watch Breaking Bad, did you?
No.
Okay, man, I won't spoil it.
Okay.
There's a scene very similar to that where someone's face is blown open on this side. You can see their teeth on the inside.
Oh my God. But yeah, I looked at him, and he looks like a cross between the Crypt Keeper and Imhotep when he was regenerating. It was just, how are you still alive, dude? But of course, we don't see this at the beginning.
7 gods,
barely.
Yeah, but I mean, we don't see how bad it is at the beginning, because he has his face bandaged up, over the forehead and over the side. So I just knew, I was like, okay, well,
maybe just his whole mouth. I mean, the teeth and everything. You're like, boy,
they don't have good dental care in.
Yeah, but everybody else is looking good, pearly whites. Except for Flea Bottom. That's something different.
I don't think Otto has good teeth.
They look crooked, but it looks better than the King's at this point.
Oh, he looks so bad.
Open sores everywhere.
Open sores. Ugh. Open sores. But we're gonna come back to him, because I want to talk about these people in the small council. Because it's obvious, like, Queen Alicent is sitting in the king's chair in the small council room. And just the way that they're conducting the business, first of all, Lord Beesbury, dude, my man.
You're doing too much.
And you're talking too slow. I mean, I really felt for Alicent. I really felt for her when she was like, thank you for that exhaustive report, Lord Beesbury, because the way he was talking, it was like,
I'm gonna take that back. The man is doing his job. He's being thorough. He's been doing it for years.
He can be thorough a little quicker. I can't even talk. He can be a little more quick while he's being thorough. He can.
I like him, bless his heart, but we'll circle back to that too.
Right. Okay, but we did see our boy. He is still there. He's still around, Mr. Lord Commander, Sir Harold, because you asked about him in the last episode. You were like, where's our boy Graham McTavish? Like, did they just write him off? No, he's still there.
No, he's still there.
It's just, I'm gonna stay by my guns. It's a waste of talent.
He should be doing more. Yes, I do. Yeah. I do agree with that. But I will say this too. I like that they have him as a likable character and as what I feel like is going to be a loyal character to Rhaenyra, because when he comes in and he tells them, your guests are here, Otto says this thing, so were they welcome as befits their station? And you saw when they got there, nobody greeted them except for Lord Carswell. And I was like, oh, y'all pulling this disrespect shit too. And he was very, respectful. He was like, it was as you wished. I mean, you can kind of see in his demeanor, like he's there for duty, but you can tell he don't like being there.
Well, first of all, he was a white cloak under Jaehaerys.
Mm-hmm.
So he knows what it's supposed to look like, how it's supposed to feel. And he can look around and be like, none of this is right. But he's going to do his job. But he knows. He's been around long enough to know that none of this is right.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, so while they're sitting there having their discussion, Daemon and Rhaenyra, they've arrived. They've noticed some changes in the castle. I noticed that 7-point star. I was like, oh, here we go with the religious bullshit again.
They took down all their lovely artwork.
They took down all the porn.
Pretty much, yes.
Can I have a sidebar? I need a sidebar.
Yes, sidebar.
I pointed this out at DragonCon during one of the panels I was on, that the only reason why this show probably got greenlit and why they dumped the other one was because it's just like Game of Thrones. Like, it echoes Game of Thrones. It has dragons, Targaryens, and even down to is it Westerling? Harold?
Yes.
Yeah, that he's very much like
Sir Barristan.
Yes. It's the same thing. And also Cersei's transition into the 7-point star is the same as Alicent's transition. It's like it's almost like they're pulling those same elements to make it seem familiar to the masses, so they can just kind of go along with it.
And I think because it makes sense, because you're talking about the ancestors, you're talking about the precursors to the characters that we already know. So it is a little more familiar. And I did read an interview that said the reason why they scrapped the other one was because it did not feel like Game of Thrones.
It didn't feel like Game of Thrones, which Game of Thrones is Targaryens and dragons.
Yeah, pretty much.
Bastards, Battle of the Bastards. That's what people know the Game of Thrones for. Not not just a regular medieval television show. No one wants to see that.
But you know what? I'm hoping that maybe once they see the success of House of the Dragon, that they may revisit that other one, because even though it may not have felt like Game of Thrones, if it had some of the history and some of the background, I would still be interested in seeing that.
We would, but the fact that there are no dragons and no Targaryens is a big reason why it wasn't going to work. Before they even came to Westeros.
I'm not going to understand. It's not going to hit the diehard fans. It's those glossovers. Friends who like watch it. Oh, this is so great. This is again like Game of Thrones. You give them another show, they're going to expect the same thing. Where for us who are reading the books and watching even YouTube videos about the history of everything, the world building, yes, we'll watch anything about it. It doesn't actually have to connect like that.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But for I don't call them randos, but for the casual viewers, that's what they're looking at.
Casual fans.
That's what really brings the numbers up, to be honest.
That's what the money is
right. The casual viewers. So who have no idea. Some of these friends don't even have any idea that's in the book.
Yeah. Yeah.
So. And I'm sure that all these things, they may not be aware of it, but they feel very familiar.
Right.
Even down to Aegon, doing his thing in the window. Was that the last episode? Right.
That wasn't this episode. Was that last episode? I think that was 2 episodes ago.
Yeah. So, and then that kind of mirroring what happened with Tommen. The same window, and it's the same familiar, the same echoes that
and the politics.
I'm just saying, you said how it kind of echoes, and I'm like, nope, same window, totally different uses.
I said echoes, I didn't say exactly the same.
So
but that's the end of my sidebar. It's sort of a mini rant, but we'll move on.
Yeah.
Well, Before we move on from the council meeting, I like how they were talking about how, oh well, Luke hasn't been around Driftmark, so he doesn't know how to command a fleet. And someone say, what does that have to do with?
Oh yeah, was that Beesbury? It was what since
he's like, what his ability does not alter his claim. I mean,
what has ability affected someone's claim?
Right. I mean, think about it.
Rhaenyra suckers around here don't know shit.
Rhaenyra is the actual heir. She has not been to Westeros in 6 years, or she has not been home in 6 years.
Right. So that doesn't make any difference.
Yeah, when have we ever taken ability over claims?
Right. But the other thing regarding your sidebar that I think is interesting, you mentioned Cersei and her following the faith when things started getting weird. I think the difference is I think Cersei was doing it for show. I don't think Cersei ever actually believed it. And I feel like Alicent really, truly was trying to be better and thought that the faith.
Well, we've always known her to be a very faithful character from the beginning. She was always going to the set.
Yeah, she was.
And praying and lighting candles. That's her
so that's part of her.
I wasn't saying it was the same. I was just saying it sort of echoed for people who were familiar with the first series.
Yeah.
Because when I saw it, they'll be like, oh, I remember that. Yeah.
Huh?
When I saw that 7-pointed star, I was like, oh, some shit about to happen.
Yeah, that's how everyone should take it. They're like, oh, Lord, here we go.
Here we go.
What happened last? We know what happened in the future dealing with them.
Right.
So,
anyway, Rhaenyra remarks about that. What did she say? I would say it's good to be home, but I scarcely recognize. And Daemon's just like, I'm telling you.
He had a lot of those in the subtitles.
He did. But there's just a lot. Like, he doesn't have to say a word. His facial expressions and his body language give everything away. And just like in the scene that follows, when they actually go into the king's chambers, first of all, the fact that his little Lego set had cobwebs on it made me so sad. Because that meant that he hadn't been able to do anything with it. It's just all cobwebs. And then when she goes to the bed and she sees him, you can tell how shocked she is at his appearance. But I think what got me more was Daemon's face. Because Daemon looks at his brother and for all the fighting that him and Viserys did, or all of the rebelling that he did, again, he still loves his brother. And for him to see Viserys in that way, the look on his face, even just his eyes, they looked so sad. And it's like he really couldn't look at his brother. Like, he would look at him, but the look on his face, he looked like a little kid who had just been put on punishment, or who had just been told his pet rabbit died or something. His face was so sad, but it's almost like
I just had the meme where with Terrell Owens crying, talking about, that's my coach, that's my king, that's my brother. I'm sorry.
No, but I mean, that's looking at his face.
Yeah.
That was like, I was like, okay, you are not about to break me this episode, Daemon. No. But I mean, her and him both trying to get through it, like just trying to look at him and trying not to let their shock show on his face. And, of course, he's kind of in and out of it. And I feel like Daemon kind of pushed on with the whole succession thing. He was like, yeah, so Lord Vaemond is coming to challenge the succession of Driftmark. I feel like he was doing that to kind of keep his mind off of what he was seeing, like how bad his brother had gotten. Because I feel like him and Rhaenyra also had a little bit of guilt. They've been away for years. They haven't come to check on him. They may have been writing back and forth maybe, but for all intents and purposes, they were estranged from him. And I think he might have felt like a little guilt, like, I wasn't here to protect my brother.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
You know, especially considering you see who's running things now. The same
which goes
people.
back to that speech he gave him about I'm trying to protect you.
Yep.
You left him unprotected.
Mm-hmm.
You know, even the last time he talked to you, he asked you to come back with him, to come back home. Even after he banished you, he was asking you to come back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but you know what? That wasn't the right time to talk to him about coming back. I mean, he's literally at his wife's funeral.
Yes,
he wasn't thinking about that stuff. You know,
and apparently never did, because he never did come back. So,
well, I mean, because at that point he had married Rhaenyra, and we can tell by the way their wedding was, that was not something the king was behind. They got married in secret.
Yeah.
So at that point, they probably both felt like, okay, you know, it might be better if we leave, because what they don't show in the show, but you find out in the books, Viserys was pissed about their wedding. Pissed. And actually did, I believe, banish them from court. So, you know, there's a lot of guilt there. There's a lot of shock. And I was sitting there watching this scene, and then I hear the door come in, and I start hearing children. I was like, y'all are not about to bring these loud ass children to see this sick man.
I thought the same thing. I said, this is not the time.
This is
like, you two can barely hold it together.
Right.
I mean, Daemon was like, he was looking like a little boy. Because like, you know how with kids and situations, they'll just like look down, then they'll look up at the person in the hospital, and then they'll look down a lot. That's what kids do, because they're
I'm
like,
looking at him now.
Yeah, he's like constantly looking down. Then he'll look at him, and then he'll keep looking down. Then look back up, looking down, not trying to stay focused on him at all.
He looked like he was trying to keep from crying.
Right, but you want to bring some kids in this situation right now.
Well, okay, I understand why they brought the kids. You know what I'm saying? I understand why. First of all, these are your grandchildren that you have not met. Again, the whole guilt thing. We have been away way too long. Right. He has 2 grandchildren he has never met.
Right. And we didn't know he was gonna be like this either.
Yeah,
when they came in.
I don't think
so. They told the nanny to come like in 15 minutes. Come in. We'll be prepped for you. They wasn't imagining that he will be in the bed like this.
Well, I don't know, because why else would Otto and Alicent be ruling in his stead if he wasn't that sick?
Yeah, but it's still not what you expect when you come in.
Trust me, it's not.
Yeah. I mean, I get that part, but I'm saying I think they expected him to be sick.
Seeing it and knowing it are two different things.
Yeah, especially as bad off as he is.
Yeah.
You know, but he does perk up a little bit when he meets the kids. You know, especially when she introduces Viserys, he was like, oh, that's a great name for a king. You know, he's at least able to perk up like that. And then, of course, he's in pain. He asks Daemon to pass him his tea. When Daemon takes the teacup back from him, he's like, oh, they drugging him.
Yeah, I smell something.
Yeah, I mean, thankfully it was, well, as far as we know, it was just milk of the poppy that they were giving him for his pain, and it wasn't something else, you know, it wasn't poison or anything, but still, I'm thinking if Daemon can smell it like that, it was probably a strong dose, and he's probably looking like, yeah, that's why he can't do shit. What did he say when Alicent finally decides to make her presence? He was like, I'm surprised the king remembers his own name. First of all, the fact that Daemon never from jump, he never stands up in Alicent's presence. You know how everybody else stands up? Never. He's sitting in that chair, like
legs crossed,
kind of like, what is this bitch about to say now?
That's all he was doing.
He's like, how is he expressing these wishes? Through grunts and mumbles? I mean, like, you tell me how he's doing it.
Man, let me tell you, the shade he's throwing her, because she was like, you know, about not greeting them, or, you know, what did she say? It's been too long since we've been since we've,
enjoyed.
I can't remember the wording. Since we've been blessed with your presence or something like that. And he was like, but apparently not long enough to warrant a proper welcome.
People gonna learn not to cross Day.
Man, let me tell you.
They gotta leave Day alone.
Once he opened his mouth and the way he was looking, especially when she started talking, he was just he put his head on his hand and he was just like, I was like, oh, y'all, you know what? I was like, the clock is ticking. I was just waiting to see what he was going to do this episode. I was like, the clock is ticking. He's letting y'all know from jump. I am already irritated. Y'all already disrespected us. And then I come to find my brother in this state. Yeah, he was like,
it's building up. Ever since he landed, it's building. When they got out of their carriage, it's been building. Seeing his brother building. This is Alicent walking into the room, talking that smack, building. But Rhaenyra tried to be nice. She was like, oh, she was probably in meetings. She was really, really busy. He's sitting there like.
He was like this, and he went,
Right. Like, that's one thing I noticed. Rhaenyra is always the one that's trying to be diplomatic with Alicent through all of this. And I know that there are reasons why she can't afford to like go off because she got these 3 kids who are obviously not full Targaryens or Velaryons. She's got to protect her kids. So that means that she kind of has to control the way she behaves more than anybody else does. She has to watch what she does and she has to watch what she says because everybody is watching what she does and watching what she says.
Yeah.
Which sucks because you see from these early episodes and from the way she is, she would make a great queen. Unlike her half-brother who feels the need to rape the help while his wife and children are in the other room. There are days I really do feel sorry for Alicent. I do. Because she didn't ask for none of this. She didn't ask for none of this. She's trying to please her father. Then she's trying to please her husband. And now she got this idiotic, just gross, cruel son of hers that she married her daughter to. And now that poor sweet girl has to deal with him as a husband. I was just like, I hate to say it, things would be so much easier if Aegon just died.
Yeah.
We already see he is going to be a horrible king. When you are in your teens or whatever he is right here, no. He
might be like 20.
He might be late teens, early 20s.
Maybe 20, yeah.
But we already see you have a taste for depravity when you sitting up there on the window jacking off, knowing that your shit gonna hit anybody who's walking up under your window. You don't give a fuck about nobody. You've already proven that.
He rapes a servant girl. What was his excuse? She'd be all right.
Basically.
Yeah. Oh, it was just a bit of fun. She shouldn't have taken it so seriously.
Oh, seriously, yeah, she'd be all right. Really, dude? She's just supposed to dust it off, walk it off.
But I do like Alicent's response because she didn't just explain it away like Cersei would have. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? She actually slapped him and she was like, what the fuck, dude? You are not my son. I was like, oh, because he looked actually hurt by that. She was like, you are no son of mine. He was like, I said, oh, okay, Alicent, you do got, you know.
Yeah, but that was the son you raised. Though.
Right. And then you mad too, because he's like, and especially on a day like today, she already stressed.
Yeah.
A day like today. He was like, what is today? He didn't care. I'm gonna tell you one thing about this, about Aegon II. He does not care about this damn throne. He never cared for it. Remember last episode, he was like, well, she can have the throne. I'm not going to challenge her. Y'all are putting that in this boy's head.
Right. He's like, this y'all's wish, not mine. I want to be depraved and have fun. I can't do that as a king. That's what he wants to do.
Right. He was like, yeah,
let her have it.
Let her have it. And then let her, and again, before Alicent poisoned his mind, they didn't really have any problem with Rhaenyra's boys. They were sitting there in the yard playing, teasing teasing Aemon. They were doing all that together. Mm-hmm. They had I won't say great, because we only saw a little snippet of that bond, but they were okay. Mm-hmm. You were the one who came in and poisoned his mind, and
her and Kristen Cole poisoned their mind. He had a lot to do with it too.
Let me tell you about Kristen Cole.
We hadn't even got to the good part yet.
Let me tell you about Kristen Cole. This dude. Let me tell you. So when I was on my cruise last week, I took Fire and Blood with me because I wanted to try and get some of the reading done. And I finally got up through I got quite a ways into the book. And I was just like, I just want to know what happens to Sir Kristen. It's a long time before we find out. And I'm not really pleased with that. I just feel like he
needs to go now.
He needs to go. I don't advocate violence, even though I just said a few breaths ago about Aegon needing to die.
Now you couldn't even say that Aegon goes to another place and enjoys his life somewhere else. You say die.
You didn't want to even send him to the wall.
Right. I mean, beyond the wall, maybe with the growlings or something.
He raped that poor girl while his wife and his children.
That's true. That is true.
We don't even know how many children at this point. We just know that Helena comes in and asks for her. Where's Diana? She's supposed to dress the children. So we know there's some children, plural.
Yes.
You doing that to that sweet girl.
And the mom had to go. Alicent had to go give her a hug. I'm so sorry.
Give her a hug. Give her some money to pay her for her silence, and to give her some of that.
I'm talking about her own daughter. The daughter. She had to give her own daughter a hug. I'm so sorry.
Oh yeah. Is this what I did?
You don't deserve this.
Right.
Because Edmund would have took good care of you.
I thought about that.
I don't know.
No, he did say that he would have. He said
he would have done his duty.
He said that.
He said he would have done his duty.
And he was okay with that.
Yeah, but I don't know if that equates to treating her kindly.
I don't know, because even in that conversation, when Aegon was talking badly about Helena, he was like, she's an idiot. He was like, she's our sister, Yeah. I feel like he was a little bit more compassionate as a child. And I know that fight and losing his eye probably changed him for the worse. I mean,
he was bullied. I don't think he would have bullied someone else like her for being different, because he was different and they made fun of him.
Right.
So he wouldn't have done that with his sister turned wife.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think he would have.
Everyone else is fair game.
I did say he was going to bully her. I wouldn't necessarily treat her very affectionately and lovingly. He would have just done his duty. And
yeah, but I don't think she wants all that. She's not
I think she's just doing her duty as well. But I feel like
a toucher and stuff like that. You just watch. She don't really want to be touched like that. So he would have recognized what she needed and would have gave her the things that she needed.
I feel like, because I feel like Aemon,
I'm trying not to like Aemon, so stop. Just stop right now. We don't like Aemon. I mean,
he is kind of he's a likable character.
I was rooting for him.
He got that fresh hairstyle.
I mean, last episode.
Even in this, I mean, last episode, even in this episode, I liked him. I mean, he wasn't really being an asshole. Think about it. At the dinner, he just kept looking around at everybody, seeing what they were doing. It wasn't until Lucerys started giggling about the pig being placed in front of him
he said
that he went off.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a thin-skinned dude right there.
No, it's not.
You couldn't shake that off?
No, because that was a constant issue.
It was constant. It has been years.
Okay, but here's the thing. This is my feeling about that whole dinner.
In the world now.
That whole dinner was supposed to be about mending bridges and fresh starts. And it seemed to me like the adults at the table, especially Rhaenyra and Alicent, I felt like if things had not gone south with that dinner, they probably could have made a peace and things could have gone a whole lot different. If you think about it, when they were sitting there after Viserys came in, and I know we're going to talk about this in more detail, after Rhaenyra made her toast to Alicent, you could see Alicent was visibly moved by it. And then when she gets up and she gives her toast to Rhaenyra, what did she say? You will make a great queen. Mm-hmm. At this point, Alicent is telling them, okay, I'm not going to fight this thing anymore. This is what needs to happen. This is what she's wanted from the beginning. Even when her children were young, it was her father who poisoned her mind against Rhaenyra, talking about, oh yeah, well, in order to keep her claim to the throne, she'll put your kids to death. Otto planted that in her mind. And I think Alicent sees Rhaenyra and is like, okay, you know what? You're a mother. You wouldn't do that to another mother. You wouldn't kill my children just for this crown. Rhaenyra has done everything different from jump. You know, she has never been the one to sit there and play that Game of Thrones. She's never been the one to sit there and try to get anything that's been given to her through devious means. That's not in her. That part Alicent had, you know, she was true about when she said that to Viserys. That's not in Rhaenyra's nature. The things that she's going to end up doing is going to be because of the Hightowers. Like, you guys did so much plotting trying to keep her off the throne that I feel like they're going to turn her into what they feared. And it's not going to be because it was already there for her to be. Y'all are turning her into that.
We're going to circle back to that.
I'm just saying.
We'll come back. We'll come back to that. All that plotting. We'll come back to that.
Yeah, because I got some things to say about that dinner.
Okay, so where are we now? We are.
I mean, we don't have to be in order. We can.
Okay, so everyone's coming. Vaemond comes to make his claim, to file his petition. Rhaenyra's coming to file her petition. And Rhaenys is coming to file her petition.
Yeah.
Except for her, she doesn't have what she gonna do yet. She just gonna watch and see what happens to make her decision.
Yeah.
Well, I think she also
she already had it in her mind.
She has a plan A, plan B, plan C.
Yeah.
Based on what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
I don't even know if it was to that point yet. I think initially her plan was, okay, nobody else is fighting for Corlys in that sense, for what he wants. Little brother is coming. He wants his own seat. Rhaenyra, of course, wants her child to be the heir. How about we do what Baylor says? I can sit this throne. I've been doing it for 6 years. I've been sitting here running things, which again, she was almost queen. So we know she's fit, to rule. But the thing is, when Rhaenyra comes to talk to her, I don't know. I kind of feel like I understand why Rhaenyra approached her, because she was like, I wondered what your purpose was in coming here. I didn't think you'd be backing Vaemond. So I was she was kind of wondering what she was going to do. And then she was like, oh, but I realized you want the seat for yourself. Why wouldn't she?
Mm-hmm.
That's just the way I looked at it. And then, in a last ditch effort to kind of mend some fences or whatever, she was like, okay, so how about this? How about we betroth my sons to your granddaughters, and then that way your granddaughters will still have those powerful seats. Baela would be queen consort, and Rhaenyra will be the queen of Driftmark. Supposedly that's a win-win situation, right? Mm-hmm. Except Rhaenys is like, yeah, you would think so, but that's not the case. So I think at that point, Rhaenyra was really wondering, like, okay, so is Rhaenys also going to say that my children are bastards and they don't deserve the seat? And she
should have been queen. So let's try this again. And this is evidence of why she should have been queen. One, she knows I'm not going to put all my cards out on the table. Again, I'm going to consider all the roads before I make my decision. Mm-hmm. Everyone else is like, okay, are you on my side? We're going to do this. Let's turn here. Let's turn there. She's like, I like how she just sit back and just watches everything.
But I think also her plan, if King Viserys had not gotten his ass out of that bed and got up on that throne to preside, I think she would have made a case for herself to be the heir to Driftmark or to rule Driftmark. But let me tell you, when King Viserys walks into that
hold on. Before you get to that point, I would argue that she knew whatever she was going to do was in desperation, because she tells Rhaenyra that tomorrow the Hightowers land their first blow, as if she knows that they're going to pick Vaemond. And I think she's there to try to salvage whatever she can. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because she knows that that's the only result that's going to happen.
Mm-hmm. And we see as much because Vaemond sits there, he meets with them in the small
thing. So, but when she says, I'm just telling you, tomorrow they land their first blow, like that is what they're going to do. It's like she's not stupid. She knows Vaemond is clearly he's always been in the pockets of the Hightowers. Mm-hmm. Always.
Yeah. What did she say? And I must stand alone.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I think she really was just there to, as best she can, protect herself and her granddaughters.
Yeah.
I don't think it was to protect Rhaenyra or Jace and Viserys. I really think she was there. Yeah. No, I mean, I really think she was there to make sure she was going to be protected. Like, if maybe they would come to her with the deal on the side or something. But she knew that they were going to name Vaemond as the heir to Driftmark. She knew that was clearly going to happen.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So I don't think she was going to make a case for herself to be up there, because that was a lost cause. She knew that was desperate. And I don't think she would want to look desperate. I'm just saying.
Or
she had to show up. She had to come.
I keep saying, if it looked like there was a possibility for her to say that and they go with it, she would have. Again, she had options on the table depending on how they responded to different things. But she wasn't going to be the
man out.
She was basically going to sit back and see what happens, instead of everyone is right now trying to find their position, moving their pieces around. Her pieces on the side saying, okay, where's everyone going to land? Now, if it looks like they say, okay, Vaemond, no, we're not considering you, then she can say, hey, why don't I be the queen?
Yeah, but I understand.
I mean, she was looking to see what.
She knew what was going to happen.
I agree with Anthony. I think
that was going to happen. She was just there to make sure she could salvage some kind of protection for herself and her granddaughters.
But she was prepared again, very quick on her feet when things turned a different way.
Yeah. I mean, but that's different because, like I said,
she was prepared. That's all I'm saying is she was prepared.
Whatever happened. I don't think that was preparation. I think that was, oh shit, my cousin is here. I'm not about to get my tongue cut out of my head.
Right.
That I think that's what that was.
Because it's looking like it's gonna go the other way. If he never made it up there,
I agree.
I still say she's a very smart person and that she had things in her ready. And that's all I can say until we do the next episode. That's all I can say.
Yeah, but I mean, so I feel like
she's the boss.
When the Hightowers would have named Vaemond the heir, she probably would have arranged for Baela to become his bride in order to keep herself safe, I would say, in a way, because if Vaemond knows that she's backing whatever Corlys said and she's not backing him, then at that point she becomes a threat.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. She was there to make sure she could protect herself and her granddaughters.
And that's what I said. She had things to go with whatever comes her way.
But it was never going to be a question of her being able to petition to be
I didn't think
Driftmark, because that clearly
that wasn't going to happen.
That wasn't going to happen, and I think everybody knew that was good. That's how it was going to go.
But I mean, I think she
was playing.
She could have, but I think at that point she has already kind of resigned herself to the fact that she is not going to rule in any capacity.
Yeah.
You know, even when Baela said, and my grandmother looks quite comfortable here. Yeah, she did. She looked very comfortable and she looked very regal, but she also looked very temporary. I hate to say it.
Right.
But
because, God forbid, Corlys recovers and comes back and he's looking at Vaemond like,
what the fuck?
That is not my wishes. I said it several times what I wanted to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of wishes, now we can talk about your boy coming down. There are all these people making these petitions to be whatever. Vaemond making his petition to be.
Well, we got to talk about what happened before that first, because
they haven't made their petitions yet.
We got to go back to what happened before that first, because Rhaenyra goes to see Viserys at night, the night before this hearing is supposed to happen. And she asks him, she was like, do you believe it to be true, the Song of Ice and Fire? And he says, Aegon's dream. And he's like, he's trying to get it out. Of course he can't. And she tells him, she was like, you told me that our purpose was to unite the kingdoms, but by naming me heir, you divided it. And she was like, I never wanted it. And it's too heavy a burden to bear, because again, the future of her family is at stake in just a few hours. And it could literally be life and death for her. So she tells him, she was like, if this is what you wish, I need you to speak up for me. I need you to, basically reaffirm that that Luke is to be the heir to Driftmark. And of course, again, he's in pain. He can't really do anything. And she sits there and cries. And I think that's the first time we've ever actually seen her fully vulnerable since her mother died. And I don't know what happened. I don't know if Viserys heard her, but the next morning, while he's getting treated, Otto tries to give him some milk of the pop, and he was like, no, I don't want the milk. He was like, but I do want dinner tonight with all of my family. We thinking King Viserys finna go get back in the bed. Oh no.
Well, let's go back real quick. That night he called her my only child. You forget about the other kids, but that's okay. My only child.
She's the only one that matters. She's the only one. I think she's the only one. I mean, if you think about it, we've never seen him interact with them other kids, except for when all the shit went down with the dragon and Aemon losing his eye. That's the only time we ever saw him interacting with those kids, which is something that I feel like, I don't know if that's the purpose of this show, to show the Targaryens as like bad parents, because even in this episode, when you have all the family together, you never see Daemon interact with his kids. Never. And I'm just like, why are they doing that? Because
that
we
must
know
be a Targaryen thing.
But Rhaenyra's very close to her kids. Like, she literally always hugging on them. You know, they're right always underneath her, pretty much.
But I think also
was
too,
like that with Aegon when Aegon was little.
He was like that with Rhaenyra when she was even a teenager.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. He's always doted on Rhaenyra.
Right. But always. Then Aegon grew up and he was like, I don't think I like him.
But
yeah. Okay. But anyway, so let's talk about this throne room even before Viserys walks in. So Otto Hightower is presiding. Everyone comes in. He tells them that they're going to hear claims for the succession of Driftmark, and he has Vaemond come up first. And Vaemond starts talking about the Velaryons' long and storied history, in Westeros, and how they were one of the first families, and how they were one of the only families to come over from Old Valyria with the Targaryens. And he talks about how Driftmark is a seat that belongs to the Velaryons, and he is the true heir. And he keeps making these little snide comments, and everybody is looking at him like, what the fuck is he about to say? And Rhaenyra interrupts him to say, yeah, but you're sitting here discounting my son, who is the true heir to Driftmark. And they kind of stop her. Queen Alicent stops her. He makes his little claim. And then Rhaenyra gets ready to make her claim for Luke. And as she gets ready to start, the doors behind her open and King Viserys is announced. And I tell you, this was the slowest walk, but I swear it was so powerful.
It was a better entrance than Alicent's entrance at the pre-wedding party.
Yes, it was.
It was more powerful than that.
Because at this point, you can see the determination this man has to stand up and be witness for his daughter. And I was like, oh, y'all in some trouble now, because the king is here. And he gets up there real slow, and he turns and looks at Otto. And the crazy thing is, he has this crown on his head, but it's got a piece affixed to it so that his face is covered. The right side of his face is covered.
Like the Phantom of the Opera.
Yes, it looks like that kind of mask. And he tells Otto, I will sit the throne. When I tell you the look on Otto, Vaemond, Alicent, and Rhaenyra's faces when that door opened and he was there, they all look like, oh shit. The Hightowers look like we're fucked. Vaemond looked like, did y'all know that he was going to show up? Rhaenyra is sitting there calculating in her head. All right, yep. Let me change my course of action.
Right, that's what I said.
But I think even at that point, she wasn't prepared to say anything, because I don't think she was expecting the king to call upon her. It was when the king called upon her and she looked at Vaemond, that's when she made up her mind like, oh, okay.
But she was ready. She was ready.
Yeah, and didn't one of the white cloaks was gonna try to help him up, and he was like, no.
He was like, nope.
But then his crown came off, and Daemon picked it up
and helped him the rest of the way.
Side note, there was a rumor going around that was an accident.
That was an accident. The crown was not supposed to fall off his head. It fell off his head.
And Matt
Smith walked up, picked it up, and they kept filming it. Yeah. And they just kept going. So that little part was kind of ad-libbed.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I thought it was so powerful.
It was.
Yeah, it was.
Because it's like when Daemon picked up the crown, the king didn't realize it was him, and he was like, I said I'm fine. And then when he looked and saw it was Daemon, again,
right.
Daemon with that look on his face, he was the little brother at that point.
Yeah. And to him it was all right. Yeah.
Right. He was like, my brother is by my side. I'm okay now. You know, and he sits in the throne, and Daemon puts that crown on his head and he walks back. I was like, that was a beautiful scene.
Yeah. And then the best line of the series. I'm confused.
He said, I must submit my confusion.
Why are we here?
Why are we hearing petitions for an already
understand
right for an already decided succession? He was like, what's the point? He was like, how about this? I think there's only one person in the room who can give us an idea of where the Driftmark succession is going to lie, and that is my cousin Rhaenys, or the Princess Rhaenys. And Rhaenys looked at Vaemond, and she was like, yes, your grace. She came out. It was ever my husband's wish that the Driftmark title pass on to Lucerys Velaryon. He never changed his mind in that matter, and I always supported him in this matter. As a matter of fact,
yes,
Princess Rhaenyra, I was like,
just inform me of her desires.
Right. And Rhaenyra was looking at her like, well played, bitch. Well played.
but this is what I like. The boys and girls smile. Oh, okay.
They smile like, yeah.
Because first of all, you know they were already doing some stuff behind closed doors.
No, they just very close.
Come on now. Yeah.
They all had a smile on their face. Okay.
You saw the looks on their faces was like, okay. Yeah. All of them was like, oh, this is
well, I think because I think that, like, if you think
they've been together a long time though.
Yeah. And if you think back to Laena's funeral, when the girls were sitting over there by themselves, and Lucerys walked, was it Lucerys or no, it was Jace who walked over, to just stand by them. Baela was the one who grabbed his hand, looking at him like, it's okay, or like, thank you, or, just kind of acknowledging him being there, while everybody else was kind of ignoring him or making the whispers. And think about it. She's heard the rumors. She was right there in the room when at Driftmark when Vaemond was talking to Rhaenys. So she knows what the rumors are. I don't think they care though. They're just like, okay, those are our cousins. That's family.
Yeah. And they came to our need when we had to fight Aemon. Right. So we're good. We
right.
I just like that. I'm just confused.
I laughed when he said that.
I hollered.
Because I was like, as weak as he is, he's still like, hold up. Why the fuck are we here? What are we doing here? Like, y'all got me out of my bed. Y'all got me in here without milk of the poppy, just so I can be clear-headed to make sure y'all understand the words that are coming out of my mouth.
And I think I think he knew that Rhaenys was going to back him up on that.
Right. And then when she was done, he said, well, this is settled again.
Because like he said, why are we listening to petitions of a settled succession? Like, we've already done this song and dance. Why are we here?
He's basically calling Alicent and Otto idiots. Like, Otto, why are you even doing this? Like, what gives you the right and the purpose to hear petitions for something that I have already commanded? Like, who the fuck are you?
I think he was waiting to see who was gonna say what first.
Yeah. And
unfortunately, it just happened to be Vaemond opening his big mouth, because what does he say? He was like, you break law and tradition to install your daughter as heir, and yet you think you're going to decide how we do things in my house? He was like, I will not allow it. Viserys was like, allow it. You better remember your place, Vaemond. And Vaemond
I have a sidebar. Okay. This sidebar has everything to do with this, sort of. Either I'm the king or I'm not. Like, either I'm an absolute monarch or I'm not. Like, breaking with tradition and laws, I am tradition and law.
Right.
If I say X, then X is true.
Mm-hmm.
If I name Rhaenyra as my heir, Rhaenyra is my heir. Who cares about all the 13, 14 other dudes who've been king?
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying that she's the heir. Either he's the king or not. Like, it should be one of those things where everyone in the kingdom should be like, oh, well, I guess we're going to have a queen now. Like, that's the one thing George R. Martin has always said, that it's the stories is really a commentary on how basically stupid it is to have monarchies based on succession, based on bloodlines. Like, it's just stupid because it doesn't have anything to do with, like, that comment. It doesn't have anything to do with ability.
Right.
It's just who you're born from and how you're born. And
right.
It's stupid.
Right. Because I mean, even thinking about it in that sense, okay, so let's say he decided to change his mind and say, okay, you know what? I have a true born son. Let me go ahead and change it and name Aegon heir. We already see Aegon doesn't want it. And what happens when you place people in positions that they don't want? And that can be a monarchy, that can be a job, that can just whatever. What happens when you put people in positions that they don't want to be in? Disaster. Because he's not gonna give a fuck about what y'all telling him to do.
No.
You already see that just from what he's doing now.
And that ends my sidebar. It's like, even if he changed his mind and said, you know what, Rhaenyra, I love you and all, but I have a son now, he's gonna be king. Okay. He's the absolute monarch. What he says is the law. If he changed his mind, he changed his mind. He just was the person who was not known to change his mind, which we'll circle back to that later.
Right.
He never has. It's like 20 years. He has not changed his mind. Rhaenyra is going to be queen, period.
Like he told her about the Song of Ice and Fire.
Right.
Who do you tell that to?
Luke
Your heir.
Luke is going to be Lord of Driftmark in the story. Like, I said it, and therefore it is true. That these people running around trying to change his mind, that's all treason. I don't understand why no one. They're lucky he is not in his complete right mind, where he could see that all these motherfuckers is committing treason around there.
Because he warned them that night they got into that fight, and Alicent picked up that knife and went after Rhaenyra. He basically said, anyone else who questions the lineage or the parentage of Rhaenyra's sons will have their tongue taken out. This is all I will say on the matter. Those are my grandchildren. That's it.
And Lori's not here to back me up on this, but in those type of societies, if the king says someone is legitimate, they're legitimate. Like, if he says that those are my true born grandsons, that's the end of it. Period. He shouldn't have to back it up with a charge of treason, or if anyone says it again, I'm going to take their tongues out. If I'm not mistaken, in the book, 2 people came to him and was trying to explain how the kids were not, Rhaenyra's kids, and they were, and he let them finish their speech. He's like, okay, cut their tongues out. Because this
in the books, that was also Vaemond and his family. Yes, because Vaemond in the books, Vaemond is a nephew. He's not Corlys's brother. He's a nephew. And it was, I believe it was Vaemond. It was Vaemond and I think 4 other cousins who went to make that claim to the king. He had all of their tongues cut out.
Yeah, he sat there and listened to them make their case. Okay, tongues.
Yep.
But because he's the king and what he says is law.
But here's the other thing too. when he says that those children are his true-born grandchildren, he's not lying. They are the children of his daughter. They are the natural children of his daughter.
Period.
They are.
So at this point, we don't give a damn who their daddy is. Viserys is like, those are my grandchildren. That's the heir to, he's in the line of succession.
Mm-hmm.
Period, point blank, in the story. But of course, Vaemond don't want to hear none of this.
No.
And he starts getting louder and he starts getting bolder. And I feel like as he was doing this, now I will say this, he was holding himself up kind of dignified, but I literally was watching him do this and I just saw the neck roll and I was like, this is not about to end well for you, Vaemond. So he tells Viserys, he was like, you will not decide the future of my house. He was like, I will not have Driftmark pass into the hands of this. And he turns around and Daemon's looking at him like, say it. And then he looks at Daemon and he gives this look like, oh, you think I won't say it? Oh, okay. Her children are bastards. And then he turns to the king. Then he turns to the king and says, and she is a whore. I was like, this motherfucker got some huge balls on him.
Yeah, and as soon as Viserys said, what did he say?
He stood up, grabbed that dagger, and said, I will have his tongue for that. Shrump. That joker's head was gone. He falls to the floor, and you can see his tongue flapping. And here go Daemon standing behind him and says he can keep his tongue. I was like, God damn it. I knew it was coming.
Like,
Daemon was
disarm himself, and Daemon was like, hey, I'm good. I'll go back over here.
Right. Because somebody said disarm, and he was like, nope, I'm good. He's sitting there wiping the blood off with his cloak.
I'm good.
Daemon was Mr. Fuck around and find out. Daemon was Mr. Keep my wife's name out your mouth.
You look up all those things in the Urban Dictionary, you'll see a picture of Day Targaryen.
Right. Daemon was like, you're not about to talk about my wife. You're not about to talk about my stepchildren. No, we're not having that. Anybody else want some? He was like, King said, take his tongue right there. I mean, and sliced it in such a way that he literally cut his head off at the jaws. Mm-hmm. Because when he falls over, you see the whole tongue just flapping. Now, I will say this. I did see somebody else, and I saw the after show interview with the actor who portrays Vaemond, and he was like, that was a low blow. He struck me from behind. I was like, okay, that was low. I will admit.
But you should have kept your mouth shut, though.
Right.
Because either way it goes,
he gave you warning. He said, say it. Don't turn your back on him. He said, say it.
That's true.
He said, say it, and you turned your back on him.
Should have been facing the crowd.
Because here's the thing too.
That was quite disrespectful too, because Daemon is a really good swordsman. If he wanted to behead him, he could have, but he chose not to.
Yeah, he was like,
sliced
no.
him off at the jaw.
Right. He was like, you flapping your jaws? Okay, I got something for that.
He can keep his tongue.
Right. But I'm just kind of wondering, like, okay, so I will say I was impressed when King Viserys grabbed that dagger and he stood up, because one thing about Viserys, y'all not gonna keep talking about his daughter.
No.
That joker had that, as much as he was sitting in the seat, soon as he said, and she's a whore, Viserys' ass shot up out that seat, grabbed that dagger. He was like, I will have your tongue for this. I'm just kind of wondering, what would have happened if he had gone down there to take Vaemond's tongue? Like, would Vaemond have fought back? Would he have tried to fight back? If that was the case?
If he had made any move towards the King's Guard would have sliced him.
Oh, I know, but I don't think the King's Guard would have had a chance, because Daemon would have got him.
Oh, and all Daemon needed to hear was his brother say, "I will have your tongue for this."
That's all.
That was pretty much. That's all Damon needed to hear.
I'm acting in the king's best interest.
Right.
That's what he said he wanted.
He's like, "Oh, I'm good.
I'm an obedient look.
I'm good.
I'm your obedient servant. You wanted his tongue. There it is.
That's a Hamilton reference.
I almost sang it and I was like, no, I'm not gonna do that. But yeah, I mean, that's what he did.
That's what he did.
The king called for it.
Yep.
And then was basically like, okay, anybody else got anything to say?
And then he was worn out. He was worn out after that, though. He was worn out.
He was.
You're gonna come back to.
We're gonna come back to it because
anybody else want to say something? We're gonna come back to that.
Yeah. So the other thing that we skipped before we got here was with Luke and Jace basically going to explore the castle since it's been a while since they've been there. You know, they come across someone training in the yard with Sir Criston. And this person who is fighting very well. Very well. And when he turns around, he has an eye patch and they realize it is Uncle Aemon. Oops.
And they're like, I mean, he eats his Wheaties every day.
I mean, he was impressive.
Yeah, right. And he's taller than all of us.
He was impressive.
Every last one of us.
Right. He was impressive. I mean, he sat there and disarmed Criston Cole.
I mean, yeah, he is taller. He's taller than everyone.
He's about the same size as Matt Smith. Mm-hmm. You might need to check his parentage while you're talking about it.
But he's sitting there. He disarms Criston Cole, who has not aged a day. I know a lot of people. I saw a lot of people say that they're like, if they're gonna age the other actors, age him too. Well, some people don't age.
And who did they age?
I think he's partially Dornish, so he's
gonna be pretty anyway.
He's gonna be pretty.
He's gonna be pretty anyway.
He was in his 20s, so now we're like 30s. You know, men start aging later, like Daemon. It just happens that the king is dealing with some issues.
Right, exactly.
That's it. Because everybody else, all the other men look the same.
Yeah.
So I mean, that
except Otto. You know, but that's just greed. It's changing his.
I was gonna say greed and stress and yeah.
I need a timeout.
But yeah, so it was interesting because you get to see them. They see Aemon, and obviously Aemon sees them because, I mean, he's sitting there fighting. He's doing it. He starts talking, and he's like, "Nephews, did you come to train?" I was like, "How did he even notice they were there?" Like. That lets me know, even with that one eye of his, he's very observant.
Yes.
You know, so. And that scene was also interesting because, like I said, Jason Luke, this is the first time they've been there in years. And as they're sitting there, like just talking about, you know, how things were before, you know, everybody starts kind of looking at them and whispering. Jace is oblivious to it all. I think Jace has gotten to the point he's like, I don't care what these fuckers say about me. He is completely oblivious. But Luke is the one that's kind of
he internalizes everything.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And he's like, they're all looking at us. And Jace is like, so he was like, my claim wouldn't even be challenged if I looked more like Laenor Velaryon than I did Sir Harwin Strong. So I was like, okay, so they pretty much have discussed, okay, yes, we know who our true father is. But I was like, I feel so sorry for him because like you said, he internalizes everything. And I was like, I hope this doesn't make him one of those nervous kids where he's going to, you know, blurt out something that he's not supposed to. I was really worried about that, especially when they came across Aemon because they are in the same age range, you know, a few years separates them, but it's so weird looking at them because Aemon is very, very obviously a Targaryen. He has that something about that harsh look about him. You know what I'm saying? And he's agile, he's strong, he's been training. I'm sorry. Going back to what you said, I think it was Michelle who said it. What have they been doing all these years? Jace and Luke don't look like warriors. They don't look like
at
fighters.
all.
And I was just
walking
like,
along the beach, they've been walking around along the beach, at Dragonstone by the water, sitting and reading with their mom.
Yeah, it was
flowers.
very,
I mean, they're not.
She didn't train them to be warriors, which I don't know. I guess in some ways I can understand her wanting to get away from that life as far as like all these expectations and everything. But you already know that your claim is going to be challenged. You need to be preparing your children for any and every possibility.
And you married to someone who can actually train them.
Right.
I think I don't know the truth of it, but I think a lot of it has to do with a certain level of deniability. Like, not deniability, but like, I don't want to say being in denial. Like, I don't know, was she really ever convinced that she was going to be queen? Like, did she ever? Because, like, I was trying to figure it out, and like, Rhaenyra didn't train them, and he was a knight of renown. Daemon didn't do any that we know of, and he was a knight of renown. So there's something that is, I know, is part of the writing, because we know kind of what's going to happen to them, because his lack of ability is going to come back and bite them in the ass. But it is unfortunate that she didn't, and not just because of everything surrounding their parentage or everything surrounding what is about them, just the fact that they're not even being trained in the proper way.
No, they can't even defend themselves in a regular fight.
Right, because even in the future, Robert Baratheon and Ned Stark were sent off to the Vale to learn how to fight. And we have scenes of, I can't remember the armory guy in Winterfell, but he was training them, Rob and John and all of them.
So Roderick?
To do all that stuff. But she didn't do it for her kids.
But I mean, think about it too.
Even Harwin knew that Cole was not training them properly. He should have done it. So I it's like, what is this thing about the two of them that makes nobody want to do that for them?
Because of the fact that they're bastards, and because of the fact that everybody feels like, I think with them being obviously bastards, people think that they don't deserve what everybody else has to earn, if you get what I'm saying. They probably don't think Rhaenyra deserves it either. But
however, you're at your own place.
I know.
You can hire your own guys, and you're married to one.
But you know what? This is the other thing I was thinking about too. If you really think about it, Cersei didn't, Joffrey and Tommen didn't know how to fight either. So I don't know if it's just a symptom of an overbearing mother. Like, maybe she was trying too hard to show love to them because everybody else was kind of, being nasty, or being, the way that they were treating them, that they're treating them like bastards. And I think maybe she was trying to overcompensate for that. And she was being a little too overprotective, and not too overprotective in that way. And not in, let's say, a physical way. Because again,
go ahead.
No, because I was going to say, because again, I feel like if you know that your children are targets and are constant targets, my thought would be, I'm going to arm them and make sure they can defend themselves, because we all know what happens in medieval times. We all know what happens in Westeros. They could have been kidnapped. They could have been killed in their sleep. There's so many things. I mean, granted, you got to get to Dragonstone first, and you're going to have to get past Daemon. You're going to have to get past all the dragons. I understand that. But when there's a will, there's a way. Somebody who is really determined to kill those children, they could have done so, and those children would have been defenseless. Because as we see later on during the dinner, even when they try to be the aggressors, they literally get their asses handed to them with two moves.
Yeah.
So basically, you're saying, because you brought up Cersei, Tommen, and Joffrey, it sounds very similar. Another echo of the other show, where you have a mother who didn't really prepare her sons, in the way they needed to be prepared.
A mother who had children that were bastards.
I was saying, a mother who knew her children were bastards, and knew that, it might come. It was gonna come out.
Right, but the opposite is, I think Rhaenyra feels that she can protect them, and Daemon can protect them, and they just and that's another thing. I think she
and they have dragons.
Right, we have
and
dragons.
They have dragons.
I got them.
But having a dragon has never stopped the Targaryens from becoming a warrior.
I know, but that's not what she's thinking. She's like, I'm a mother of these boys. I'm going to protect my sons.
He didn't have a dragon, but he was a great warrior as well. Most of them have been. So.
I hate to say it, it's almost more of that mom's in charge. So since mom's in charge, they're not learning how to fight. Just saying.
I mean, well,
yeah. She didn't
find
it as a priority. She didn't find it as a priority.
And I guess that's probably okay, because I don't think Viserys was much of a fighter either.
I don't think so, but
I don't think so either.
I guess the thing is, it's like, I don't know. It's kind of like I said, I felt like she was overcompensating in the love and affection department, because if you look in contrast at Aegon and Aemon, well, we don't know about Aegon's fighting abilities really, but I mean, they train together. So I'm sure he has some semblance of fighting ability. Aemon, I think, is just more superior because he feels like he has to prove himself that he doesn't, that the missing eye is not going to be a handicap. But you see that he's
not going to have anyone pick on him anymore.
Right. But you also see that he is a superior fighter, but on the parenting side, he's not getting what Rhaenyra gives her kids. They're not getting what Rhaenyra gives their kids. So it's kind of like one of those things where they don't really know how to balance. Like on the Hightower side, yes, we have you skilled, we have you trained, but you are emotionally deficit because you're not getting the love and affection you're supposed to get from your parents. And on Rhaenyra's side, it's the opposite. You are loving your kids. You are giving them all kinds of love and, encouragement in that sense. But when it comes to the life skills that they're going to need, like you said, why is he just now learning Valyrian so late? And even if, like I stated earlier, okay, maybe he can't pick up languages like that, then you get other tutors. You get somebody else to help him. But
in my head canon, if I were writing this, I'm not in George R.R. Martin's mind. I'm not in the mind of the writers on the show. But for me, the dragons would be a key to this because of the magic that is in the Targaryen blood, that his connection to Vhagar being as old and as powerful as she is, could be actually lending him some, making him more robust and bigger and stronger than he otherwise would be.
Okay.
I can go for that.
Yeah.
I can see that.
And that would, because there's always been a magical connection between Valyrians and their dragons. And that was intentional. They did that on purpose. And that's why, they have the dragons with them when they're born, because they create that connection. And now, like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if that was a part of why he is the way he is.
Yeah. And then also built his confidence. So now he has that confidence. He's going out and doing things that he may have not necessarily done if he didn't have a dragon too.
Yeah. But the physical change was drastic because he's not that much younger than Aegon.
Right.
Right, and he's looking like the older brother, like a full-on adult.
He also, just in my opinion, if I had to choose one of them to be a king, I would probably go for Aemon before Aegon. Because he seems to have his shit together. Not just on the physical side, but also mentally.
Yeah.
He seems like he has it together.
And what was the thing that Viserys said about Targaryens? Like he was talking about Daemon, that he was chaotic and whatchamacallit. That sort of applies to Aemon too, and even Baela, because she has a dragon and she's a bit feisty as well. And I'm telling you that is a part of it. Rhaenyra is like that too when she's not pregnant. Yeah. Jace and Luke, they both have that a little bit in them too, because otherwise they wouldn't have all jumped in that fight in the cave.
Right.
Because they all seem to have that short, I don't want to say a short temper, but that randomness, aggression.
And you also look at the kids.
Random? Because they were provoked in a sense.
I mean, I meant the spike. I mean, they were provoked, but they were provoked to the point where they was going to beat him to death.
Well, I mean, he basically said, "I will." What did he say? I will kill you, and he said something about, I will. Oh, if you come near me or something again, I will burn you alive, just like your father, you bastards.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So no, that's a comeback. You got to come back.
Yeah, and beat the boy to
you do
within the inch of his life.
They didn't, because they were getting their butts beat too. So let's make that
right. But I mean, he had a rock and he was about to bash Jason's head in.
They had to fight back.
Yeah, but like I said, I think a lot of that comes from the dragons.
But also notice, if you pay attention to the kids, their household is actually a great household, because Luke and Jace are like, they seem happy.
And close.
Yep. They just, and
they have each other's backs.
Issues about people looking at them and their succession, but they look happy. Where the king's kids, Alicent's kids.
I mean, think about it. If you had that mother and that grandfather, I'm not even going to talk about Viserys, because right now Viserys is dealing with more issues. And it's obvious he can't be a present father the way that he probably was with Rhaenyra. I mean, in the books, when they talk about Viserys and Rhaenyra, they talk about when she became his cupbearer, literally you never saw him without her by his side. Like, they were almost inseparable. So again, obviously he dotes on his daughter, his oldest daughter. Them other kids, it's just kind of like, I don't want to say he didn't care about them, but I just think that maybe they just fell by the wayside, because by the time they were born, he was already dealing with his health issues.
It just wasn't, it wasn't the same.
Yeah, it wasn't. And then also, I mean, we got to think about it. Yeah, Alicent was a good wife, and I think he cared about her, but I don't think he ever got over Emma. And maybe he feels like this is his punishment. Oh yeah, I'm gonna be sick because I let her die the way he did. Matter of fact, he did say something about that. He posted something on Instagram after this episode, because of course this is the last episode that we see him in, because Viserys dies at the end. But he says that about Viserys's character, he never asked for a cure for the sicknesses that ailed him, because he felt like that was what he had to deal with, because he let his wife, his beloved wife, die in such a horrible way. So this was kind of his punishment. So I don't know. It's just poor Viserys. But anyway, let's talk about this dinner, because we touched upon it earlier. And you've got all of Viserys, you've got all of Rhaenyra's family on one side of the table. So you got her, Daemon, Baela, Rhaena, Luke, Jace. I think Joffrey is the only one that's not there because he's probably too young at this point. Then you've got Alicent, Otto, Aemon, Helena, and Aegon. And then Viserys is brought in, and he gives this speech to them talking about how much he loves them and, you know, how it warms his heart to see everyone there, you know, all the people that are dear to him. But then he also said it also saddens his heart because they've grown so distant. And what does he say? The House of the Dragon cannot remain strong if we are divided.
Mm-hmm.
And he takes the mask off of his face. And he was like, I speak to you not as a king, but as your father, husband, grandsire. I just want you all to look at me as the man that I am. And boy, when I tell you, when he took off that doggone mask, his right eye is completely gone. His right cheek is gone. His face is so haggard and just, oh my, like you said, it was like looking at the crypt keeper. But he sat there and he said, I just want us, basically, he was just basically like, I want us to be one big happy family. I want us to love each other. And then that's when Rhaenyra gets up and she makes her speech. She was like, you know, I give a toast to the queen. She was like, I love my father, but no one else has been as loyal and steadfast by his side as the queen. She's taken care of him. And for that, you know, I thank her. Then Alicent later on gets up and gives her speech, and she says, you know, we are both mothers and we would do what we, you know, what we can for our children. And I think we forget that we are alike in that way. And she says, you will make a great queen. Now, Otto's face when she said that, he was like, hold the fuck up.
Yeah, he did.
Like this is not what we're supposed to be doing.
Yeah,
but again,
we didn't discuss this.
No.
Right. But again, I feel like Alicent has never wanted this divide between her and Rhaenyra. That was all orchestrated really by Otto.
Mm-hmm.
And so as they're having this dinner and they make these toasts, and I think the kids make some toasts to each other, which are kind of, I was like, okay, y'all, please don't start this fight. Like the adults are being adults. Yes. Leave them alone. They have this dinner, you know. Oh, the funny part.
Oh, I was gonna say we missing like Aegon messing with Jace.
Yes, that's what I was gonna say. Viserys congratulates Jace and Luke on their, you know, engagements to Baela and Rhaena. And Aegon, again, how is this asshole gonna be king? He starts messing with Jace. You do know what you're supposed to do. Oh, you'll finally get to lie with a woman. And Baela is like, cousin, cut it. She's like, I'm not trying to hear this. Now I will say this for Jace. Jace was like, okay, say what you want, but you're gonna control your mouth around my betrothed. I was like, okay, Jace, stand up for your woman. But Baela was like, hold up, you need to shut up. And Aegon's just sitting there like, whatever. He keeps making these smart ass remarks. And then Jace makes his own toast to his uncles, talking about, you know, family unity. And I wish you guys a long life, that sort of thing. And he keeps it very clean, very nice. He sits down. Then Helena stands up. And she says, I want to make a toast to Baela and Rhaena. You're about to be married, and it isn't so bad. Mostly he just ignores you, except when he's drunk. And then she just looks like somebody compared her to Luna Lovegood, and I was like, I cannot not see that now. Because she was obviously, well, I won't say obviously, she seemed like she was drunk when she made that declaration. And Aegon is just sitting there like, the fuck?
She's talking about your ass.
She's talking about you.
She's talking about you.
And she just sits down, and then all the adults are looking like, what the hell is about to happen? Like every time a kid gets up to make a toast, they're like, what the fuck is about to happen? So after she says that, they all just kind of like, I think even Otto was like, And then Viserys tells them to play music. So when they play music, Jace, again, love Jace. He thinks about it. He looks at Baela. He says, pardon me. And he gets up and he goes to take Helena's hand to ask her to dance. And the look on Baela's face, like she smiled, like, oh, that's such a nice thing for him to do. I was like, I like this girl. I like this girl. They get up, they start dancing, and they show like this montage of them around the table. They're, you see the Hightowers on their side, they're laughing and they're talking, and you see the Targaryens on this side laughing and talking, and they're kind of looking across the table at each other. And it seems like they're having a pleasant, good time. And this is what Viserys wanted. So you see him looking, and he's happy. You can tell he's so happy. And then, of course, he starts feeling bad because, again, he's not on his milk of the poppy, and they take him out the room. This is where the shit starts to hit the fan, because it seems like it's still going okay. Jace and Helena are still dancing. They're doing whatever.
And then a pig arrives.
So the servants are bringing food to the table, and they bring this stuffed roasted pig. And they sit it right in front of Aemon. And Viserys sees it and starts sniggering a little bit. And then when Aemon looks at the pig and he looks at Luke just laughs. Aemon stands up, grabs his cup. He was like, one last toast to my nephews. What does he say?
My strong nephew.
Strong was the last one. He said something about I don't know. He named off some adjectives, and he paused before he said the last one. And he was like, strong boys. And Alicent was like, amen. He was like, no. He was like, my nephews are strong boys. And of course, Jace and Viserys, they're getting upset. All the adults are like, oh, here we go with this shit.
Yeah, he said each of them handsome, wise.
Yes. Strong.
And then it was quiet. Everybody looking, oh shit.
Mm-hmm.
And strong.
And then Alicent was like, amen. Then when he says it again, of course, Jace does the whole say it again. I was like, Jace, you are not. I mean, I appreciate the bravado, but that's not the fight you want.
You don't want that smoke, sir.
Yeah, you don't.
You don't.
You don't.
But
what I have an issue with is Aegon is the older one. So why you had to take on the young one and smack his head on the table? Like,
well, I mean, Jace went and punched Aemon, so
that's a more not really even match either, but that's a little closer than
right.
Taking the younger brother.
Yeah, but we know how that's gonna end.
Yeah.
So anyway, Jace punches Aemon. They get into a tussle. Luke tries to get up and goes to his brother and Aegon just grabs him and shoves his face in the table. The adults stand up, panic. Baela and Rhaenyra are up. I think at some point, Aegon had gone and pushed them over to a corner, and all you hear is Rhaenyra, Baela, no. Baela was ready to scrap. Baela was like, hold up, you just punched my beloved. Hold up, my betrothed. Hold up, let me. So yeah, Viserys leaves and all shit hits the fan.
My favorite part though, it looked like Aemon was about to go off on them, and then Daemon just stood in front, like.
Not only that, Jace was about. Somebody was holding again. Jace back, and Jace was about to charge him. Daemon walked in front of him with a finger, and literally. Everybody on the Targaryen side just calmed down.
Yeah. And then he turned
and then Rhaenyra said, y'all go to bed. Just go to the bed.
Then he turned and looked at Aemon.
And Aemon was looking at Daemon like, it's almost like he was looking at him with envy, but also a little bit of respect. Because he's like, he just diffused this whole situation with a finger.
I thought he was calculating his chances.
He was, and he realized.
Oh, he was.
Nah,
He was.
not today.
Not today.
Not
But
today.
he was also remembering what Daemon did to Vaemond earlier in the throne room. So
that's why I thought we were gonna circle back to that.
Right. That's why. That's why I was like,
seems like you saw what I did earlier. You don't think I won't do it now?
Right. So they all, all the children leave. Rhaenyra gets ready to leave, and she tells Alicent, she was like, I think it's best for us to go back to Dragonstone. And Alicent comes over and grabs her arm, and she was like, but you just got here. And she looks at Alicent, she looks at their interlocked arms, and it's kind of reminiscent of when they were friends. And she says, let me see the children settle, and I'll come back on Dragonback. And then Alicent says, the king and I would really like that. And I really feel like she was very sincere in that moment. Like, things could have gotten to a point where maybe they would have started mending fences. Then Alicent goes into the king's room, and he's in pain. And obviously he's been given milk of the poppy. She goes in there, she's tending to him. And I will say this, for all our talk about Alicent and her relationship with the king, I feel like it's very obvious she does love that man. You know what I'm saying?
I agree.
She's very tender with him. He's sitting there, he's drooling, and he's got the cheek out and all this stuff. She's very attentive to him. And he starts talking to her, but what he's saying to her is the conversation that he and Rhaenyra had the night before about Prince Aegon and his dream.
Yeah. Drugs are a funny thing.
They are.
Because of that, the last time he was so heavily dosed was that conversation. So his brain was picking up where that conversation
left off.
Yeah.
And he was like, so you wanted to know if I believed it to be true, the Song of Ice and Fire, Aegon's dream. And of course, the only Aegon that she's thinking of is her son. And she was like, what are you talking about, Viserys? I don't understand. And he said he was the prince that was promised. It has to be you. Talking about uniting the realms. It has to be you. And she thinks about it long and hard, and you see this look of resignation on her face. I had to go back and watch that a second time because I was trying to figure out what the emotions are that's going through her face. I think one was probably relief that in her mind, he's saying that Aegon should be king after him. But I think there was also dread for her because here it is, you've made this declaration, quote unquote, declaration to your queen. Nobody else has heard this declaration. And now this means that you will be the one to have to deliver this information, regardless of what happens to him, because she doesn't realize he's going to die that night. And you have to imagine that had to be a heavy thing for her. To be like, after 20 fucking years, you finally change your mind, and yet I'm the one that has to go and tell everybody. Because, immediately people are probably going to think that, oh, she's just saying that to get her son on the throne. Because there's no witnesses.
I would
right.
Because he clearly, earlier that day, said this matter was settled already. He was upset that we were even revisiting having the petition at all. So why would that same night he'd be like, oh yeah, on the other thing, I changed my mind.
Yeah. But I think because in the throne room earlier, that was about the Driftmark succession and not specifically about Rhaenyra.
Right, but he hasn't changed his mind.
Oh, I know.
Anything.
I know.
Either one of those items, he has been steadfast in his, when he was lucid and not on the milk of the poppy, he was steadfast.
Very much so.
Steadfast. So I fought her for her hopes and wishes latched onto that.
You know what? I can't really fault her because if you have no context for the conversation he is having with you,
you assume that's what he's saying.
But even listening to what he said, it didn't make any sense.
It didn't make any sense. But he said enough for her to pull those pieces and put it together because she kept saying, "Our son." He never said yes, but he kept saying Aegon.
Yeah, because again, the other Aegon.
She ain't thinking Aegon the Conqueror.
Well, she wasn't thinking of Rhaenyra's son either.
No.
But she should have been.
No, because Rhaenyra's son is so far down the line that it wouldn't make sense for her to think of him. If you're thinking of succession, it's Rhaenyra and it's Aegon II. So it wouldn't make sense for her to think about Aegon the Younger or Aegon the Third.
I guess my point, well, I guess what I'm trying to say is, if the fragments of of what he was saying, if you eliminate the part about the Song of Ice and Fire and the things that he said, you would literally have to fill in the gaps with what you wanted to be in there. Like what he never said. It's hard to explain. But I
get what you're saying.
Vague. It's so vague that it's hard to say he was being lucid. And you're asking him questions, but he's not answering your questions.
But the other thing I think is, if you're not filling in the blanks, if you're listening to what he's saying, for someone like her to listen to it and try to put it into context, like I said, I feel like her face kind of gave away two different feelings. She was kind of relieved, like, oh, he finally said it. And then, oh, he finally said it. It's almost like maybe he had this in the back of his mind the whole time, but he didn't want to voice it because he didn't want to look like a king who didn't stick to his word. He didn't want to look like a coward for trying to change something and, then change it back. And I mean, she could have really thought, oh, this is him being a coward on his deathbed. He's sitting here telling me that Aegon is to be the king. And now I'm the one that has to make this happen, instead of him being king enough to say, Aegon is now my heir. Think about it. One of the things we've always said about Viserys, and people have said about Viserys in this show, he does not really, he's never been clear. Like he did his succession speech once, and that was it. Anytime anybody challenged him or raised questions about it, he kind of ignored it, and like you said, in his mind, he's the king. He's already said this once. He doesn't have to go over it again. But if he happened to be of a mind that, oh, maybe everybody was right, maybe I should have made my son heir, how will this legacy, how would this look on my legacy, or whatever the case may be, he really could be having those thoughts on his deathbed. She doesn't know. You know what I'm saying? So I don't fault her for taking the information and interpreting it that way. But it just really sucks that he was not more coherent to realize, oh, this is not Rhaenyra, this is Alicent. But he did that earlier when he was talking to Rhaenyra. He thought she was Alicent at first. But I mean, it's just,
it's sad and unfortunate. And it's like, if it's hard, because if Alicent had just said, I'm gonna let him sleep on this and maybe revisit it tomorrow, which likely she could have been doing that and not realizing that he was going to die that night. But it would be, that's hard, because she also would have to realize that whatever she did, it was gonna cause a problem.
And I think that's why I said that was that look on her face when she's like,
but she had to know it was going to cause a major issue.
Either way it goes, yeah. She was kind of in a situation where it was like, it was a lose-lose.
I would have been tempted to just let it go, but she is who she is.
Especially with him being on the milk of the poppy, I would be like, he's just kind of hallucinating and
He was being loopy.
Yeah, so that wasn't being clear. Because I'm sorry, a man wouldn't change his mind after 20 years, and he literally was in pain to make sure that his daughter was taken care of. I don't think anything changed.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And you know that in your heart.
That's why I was saying I think she filled it in with the thing that
She wanted
kind
to
of
hear.
wanted to
Yeah.
hear. But
Or
I do
rather her
understand-
dad, because I'm gonna be honest, I don't think she wants Aegon to be king. I mean, again,
think about it. All her goal is in her mind. Her dad made her believe that Rhaenyra was going to kill her children. So everything that she's doing is to protect them from being murdered. If that means putting Aegon on the throne, that's what she would do. But it's not because she wants him to be king. I'm pretty sure she really doesn't think that's a good idea.
Right.
And now after tonight, she probably don't think it would be good for Aemon to be king either. Yeah. So, but her thing is, she thought her dad manipulated her into thinking that Rhaenyra was going to kill her children, and so every decision that she's made is to protect them. And I'm not going to fault her for that. I think there were other ways. If her father had taught her how to play the game, there were other things that she could have done to ensure their safety. You know, maybe marry them to Damon's kids, or, make them be friendly and nice to each other, and they'd be friends, and then they'd be on the court together, and you'd have 2 hands, 3 hands.
Right.
You got Lord Driftmark, a hand, and then marry the brother off to a Stark somewhere in Winterfell.
Right.
There are ways to do it other than the way that you did it.
Right. And then she could just have been a mother to them.
And just been mom.
Right.
She could just say, you know what, I'm done with this. Rhaenyra, we're going back to Old Town, and I'm going to raise my sons in Old Town. You can have it. She could have done that. Her dad wouldn't want her to, but she said,
that's what he wanted.
That's what he wanted. She didn't want that. And I think she never, I don't want to spoil this, but I think it's almost as if she created her own prison. Like she could, after he died, she literally could have packed up her children and left. I'm sure Aemon wouldn't have been too happy about it, but what are you gonna do?
Right.
Yeah. I'm just saying. There were other things she could have done other than, what is probably gonna happen, and everybody dies.
Yeah, but I think at this point, it also could have been that she thought her husband was doing her a favor. Okay, look, let's put this to rest. Our son is going to be king. I mean, I'm with you. I don't think Viserys would not have done that, and I think he would have known what kind of chaos that would have caused, especially considering you specifically told Rhaenyra, you will not be supplanted. I have no intentions on replacing you. And like you said, he's been steadfast to that for 20 years. But, sometimes at the end of a life, when that, when your quote unquote life flashes before your eyes, sometimes people see decisions that they've made. They're like, oh, I should have done better. I should have done something different.
Yeah, but
and she could have easily. Well, we know because we're on the outside looking in.
In the previous conversation,
right? We're on the outside looking in. But as far as what she felt and what she believed, she could have really thought that he changed his mind and he just waited until the last minute to say, "Okay, yeah, this is what we're doing." And again, he's addled on milk of the poppy, so he could have been loopy. He could have been, or I mean, think about it. What is it they say about drunk people? Drunk people are probably the most truthful people you will see because all their inhibitions are gone. So they're going to tell you the truth. Could have been the same with that. She could have been like, "Oh, this is what he really felt."
Yeah, but
that
was a different. This different than a little drunk. This is dreaming. Right. That's what I'm saying. Talk about the actual first Aegon,
the Conqueror.
Right, having a conversation with him in his brain.
She didn't think A Song of Ice and Fire. What are you
talking about? You never heard that before. So I'm like,
Right.
okay, he's thinking of something from his childhood.
Or something. Yep.
Yeah,
But
he's out of it.
She takes that, she kind of digests it, she sighs, and she's like, I understand. And she walks out of the room, and then we see Viserys, he's struggling. And then he starts reaching. He says, no more, no more. You see that one tear come out the side of his eye. You see his face. And then the black screen comes out and he says, my love. And you hear that last breath. And I was like,
he saw his love.
He saw Emma.
Yeah.
He saw Emma. But I was like, as much as we teased about this king and how sick he was and how this kept happening, we were like, he's still alive. I was still very sad to see him go.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Because now the dance is on. It's about to be a whole bunch of shit. And like I said, I read most of Fire and Blood last week. If they even put half of what happens in that book into the next season or even the next episode, we got two more episodes. Oh my God, it's about to be a bloodbath between the greens and the blacks. It's not about to be pretty. Yeah. It's about to be on.
Mm-hmm.
But
wow.
The king is dead. And looking at the previews for the next episode, yeah, it looks like we're going to have some usurpers.
Usurpers everywhere.
Everywhere. And then I heard that we're not getting Rhaenyra and Daemon in the next episode. So we're going to see everything unfold on the Hightower side first. And then I'm guessing season finale, we'll probably see what happens on Rhaenyra's side. But
wow. I think the season finale is titled The Black Queen. is the title. So we know where that episode is going to be.
But I feel like they kind of have a lot to go. Well, they've been good this season for time jumps.
Yeah, because they have a lot to go because
they have a lot to go.
They have a lot to go because some characters got to be aged up real fast to make the Dance of Dragons work.
Well,
I'm talking about Rhaenyra's kids.
The younger ones
they
do.
Gotta be aged up pretty quickly.
So I don't know. I kind of feel like maybe not necessarily. The younger kids, they could wait until season 2, depending on what they do in these next two.
On what they do, yeah.
In these next 2 episodes, because of course, next episode it's going to be him taking the crown. It's going to be the coronation.
The only thing
now, what's going to happen in the last episode, I don't know, but I have a feeling there are going to be a couple, 1, maybe 2 major character deaths in the 10th episode.
I think the way it seems like they're changing some of the things, it may swap some characters.
I think so too, because I do know that, okay, so I will say this because the interviews have been out there. So there have been questions because there is a third son that Viserys and Alicent had named Daeron, and he has not been shown in this season at all. Now, Daeron was actually sent to her uncle in Old Town to ward with him. And according to an interview George R.R. Martin did that was released this week, he did say that Daeron will probably show up in season 2. They just didn't have enough time to write him into season 1.
That makes sense.
So they'll probably introduce him, and because I was like, once I started reading the book, I was like, wait, you have to have this character in here. And he hasn't even been mentioned this season. But again, we'll probably get him in the second season. So if that's the case, I think that kind of gives me an idea of what we might get in these next 2 episodes. But again, I think they're going to change some things. So again, I'm reading the story, but I like the differences that they've done, the changes that they've done in the show. So I'm not going to speculate too much on what they're going to do and what they're not going to do. I'm just going to sit back and enjoy the dragon ride for as long.
Some of their work reminded me that Fire and Blood ain't necessarily
an accurate,
because it's maesters who may have altered some facts, and Mushroom supposedly giving them information that no one else had. So,
and see, that's the thing, because I'm like, Mushroom was supposed to be the court fool. We haven't seen him in this season, or we haven't seen him.
We've seen a character that could have been him,
right?
But
but nothing confirmed.
Yeah. So I'm starting to think that they're going to be like, well, Mushroom was a fictitious character put in the book. Because I've also heard that the book is supposedly propaganda. So it's definitely not accurate. It's Maester propaganda.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Because I do remember them saying that one rumor was the reason why the dragons are gone is because of the Maesters. So the Maesters have something to do with the dragons being gone. Now we kind of know that it's not the truth.
So, maybe.
I don't know. But yeah, I had heard that Fire and Blood is propaganda and we should not read it.
Whatever. I'm going to read it.
Just because I work told me. It's propaganda. Don't believe it. It's not truthful. The show is accurate.
Okay, see, I was about to make a comparison, but I'm not about to do that. I'm not about to alienate anybody tonight, so I'm not going to make that comparison. I'll tell you all about it when we get off the recording. But
I like this episode. This was a good episode.
It was.
It was.
It was good. A lot of the day stuff was really, really good. Matt Smith, if he does not get an Emmy or something for his performance,
Patty Considine needs it just for that goddamn walk. Just for that walk.
True. Just for that.
Ooh.
I mean, just the two of them is one of the questions that I'm bringing up DragonCon again, one of the questions we got on the panel was if we could get another spinoff show, like what show we have. Now I can say that I would like to watch Viserys and Daemon when they were like teenagers. To see what kind of shenanigans. I really would be interested because I think that would be a pretty good show.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much within this Game of Thrones universe that, like, for me as a quote unquote non-reader, because I've only read the first book, and like I said, I'm kind of in the middle of Fire and Blood, but I also started Fire and Blood. I started with where the story starts here in this show. So I still have the first part of the book to read, but it's like, even with what I do know, this universe is so vast. They could really and I know that they have several spinoffs in the works. Just give them to me. I'll watch them. I don't care how different they are. Because I feel like even if they write it differently, as long as the heart of the story still has to do with the kingdom of Westeros and the families in Westeros, I'll enjoy it. I still want to see what that other spinoff was, because of course I still want to see Jamie Campbell Bower in a Game of Thrones show. But I mean, you shot a $30,000, what was that, $30,000 pilot?
30 million.
30 million, yes, $30 million pilot. Can we please see what that was? I just want to see it. If you're gonna spend, that's just like the whole. Let me not get started.
They say it would never see the light of day. Ever. Those HBO executives were not pleased.
Well, that's kind of sort of like the Batgirl movie that they spent $90 million on, but let's not talk about that. I know. I was trying not to mention it, but okay. I'm trying to think. I think we touched on everything. And it was one of those, this was one of those episodes where it's like, I'm trying to go in order in my head, but everything was just playing out like, oh, we got to talk about this. Oh, we got to talk about this. And I was trying to rein myself in like, okay, Hanako, stay focused. But this episode, like all parts of it was so good. And like you said, the Matt Smith being able to do what he does without uttering a word, just, Vaemond, that poor child or that poor man, when they had his ass laid out on the table and the Silent Sisters were working on him, at first I thought it was Viserys because he looked so skinny and so frail without all his clothes on. So I was like, did Viserys die? And then I happened to look up and I saw the split head and I was like, oh.
Yeah.
And then Rhaenys was sitting there watching it, and the maester tried to tell her, what did he say? He was telling her his body will be ready for transport back to Driftmark tomorrow. Look away. What did he say? He said, look away. It's not good luck to dwell on the dead or something, or to view upon the dead. And she was like, death has visited me so much. I don't think he cares if my eyes are open or shut. I was like, wow, that's a woman who is, I don't want to say bitter, but she's just kind of resigned. Like, yeah, loss is going to be a part of my life. Because at this point, you've lost your daughter, you've lost your son, you've now lost your brother-in-law. You may still yet lose your husband. That poor woman. She can't catch a break. But this episode was so good. I'm so ready for the next episode because just looking at the previews, I feel like I'm going to be watching that episode just like this the whole time. Because you know it's about to be some bullshit. You know it's about to be some bullshit. Oh, anyway.
I just need someone to slap Sir Christian around.
Oh,
that's all I need. That's all I need. We miss Larys. Was Larys in this episode?
Nope.
We miss Larys. He creeping around somewhere.
Yeah, listening.
Of course. Oh, that's the other thing that I did want to talk about. So we find out that Queen Alicent's handmaiden is actually one of the whisperers for what's her name, Massaria?
Yep.
I was like, oh, okay. So that's how she becomes the what is it? The
Master of Whispers.
Master of Whispers. Okay, you got people in the castle. All right, let's see how this goes. All right.
I'm sure that it must be that network just stuck around for because Varys was using the same network.
Mm-hmm.
What did he call him?
He called him his little spiders. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's going to be interesting because I'm like, oh, so she got her hand in the pot too. So, how's this about to play out? She told Daemon, she was like, yeah, I'm no common whore anymore. Like, I got some power. Yeah, you got spies in the castle. Definitely so. But y'all got anything else to say about episode 8?
No. I think that's it.
I can't wait to get to the next episode. That's going to be an interesting one. But for now, that's it for our show. You can find us online at www.fandomhybrid.com. We are on social media on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Fandom Hybrid. We have a Discord channel. We have a YouTube channel, and you can listen to us on all major podcast streaming platforms. Thanks for listening. We hope you join the conversation next time.